know if you just give me one more second. I'm just trying to get something set up very fast, and then we'll get on with it. I have to set up the way I always have my second monitor, which is me watching chat off my phone. Which is very, very, very good. So if any of you have read the title of the stream, or at least we're gonna start with it, I'm gonna make some Minecraft skins, which is, I like art stuff, and I just realized I have to reset the follower goal again. It ended a month ago. I need to start streaming more. I don't stream a lot, but if we go over to skin, no, that's not what we want. I have to believe in my power of picking a good place to start and stop on Google, because I'm scared it's not gonna end the way I want it to. So, okay, found a place that's not horrible. Let me switch over to scene number 2. My people, we are making good Minecraft skins from Bursed images. Just ignore me for a second. No, not save. I want to open it. Okay, so I picked out some lovely Bursed images we're gonna make into my favorite thing, Minecraft skins. I haven't figured out a way to make them both appear at the same time, so we're clicking back and forth. So we're just gonna go like this. Go. Music. Get in the pit. Oh yeah, 1 second. Fuck. This is stuff you usually do with the screen off, but I don't care. Boop, boop. I closed it. Okay, I'm switching back to the starting soon screen just because I'm scared it's going to show my name. When I open a new tab, and guess what? It did! It loves me so much. Oh, it also showed my personal email. This is going great, don't worry. When once I'm getting hold of that, they won't let you change them anymore. Okay. I fixed the problem. No, I did not. Back to scene 2. I haven't decided which one we're going to do first, so yeah. Okay, I'm trying to think, and it's very hard for me to think sometimes because I'm very intelligent. I think we're gonna do this one first just because it's easy. Can I zoom in? No, I can't. The Ooh Manifesto is the one we're gonna make first. We're gonna organize these. So we're gonna make that one second, because that's easy. The Ooh Manifesto. This one. That one seems easier. And we're gonna do the peanuts first, then this one, then this one. If we get through them all. If not, we're gonna do another one of these. So we're just gonna dye the entire thing white. That's blue. I know my colors. It froze. It doesn't want to be white. You know what? Fair enough. I have a very, very simple idea for this, but I feel like it'd be just like cheating out. I gotta find a way to put the word, God, this is gonna be hard to see. Okay. I wanna put the book author, which would be Karl Marx. Yeah, I know my communism. Not really. So we're gonna zoom in, zoom in. How do you, that's ooh, that's the, yeah, okay. Me forgetting my own joke halfway through it. That's not white. This is going so well. Is this the back of him? I think it might be backwards, but that is alright. We are too. You know what, on the inside, we're just gonna go like this with the legs, because books have ink. That's what ink... That look cool, though. It'd make it look less, white and more defined. And it looks cooler. I like it. I don't know about you guys, but I like it. I think it's really, really nice. So, it is. I don't... I'm putting scribbles on it. Authors are usually at the bottom, so we're... Forget it. Can I... How do I... Okay. Perfect. Can I write the ooh on it? Because I think we should at least put the on it. Okay, that didn't work out well. Perfect. The woo. And in my fashion of all my skins I like to make, I'm hiding a little, not really hiding this time, little face. I already made one. Oops, we'll fix this. There we go. Number 1, done. Can I? Down, it's gonna show my name again, so we're just gonna go boop. I don't have a, never mind, it doesn't show my name. That's a good thing. I'm on the starting soon screen, so it doesn't show my name when I download the files, because I don't actually have a Skindex account.
Oh, you don't have a Be Right Back account?
I don't have a Be Right Back page, and I don't have a Skindex account. But we finished making the Ooh Manifesto skin, so we're moving on to the anxiety skins.
The what? did you make?
The manifesto.
I love that.
Yes.
That's hot.
Yes.
We have police in.
It's not 5:30.
What time is it?
It's 4.
Oh.
I'm talking with my lovely
Tell your child
Sibling.
I say hi.
What is your ad?
She
Go by Lenny.
screams too.
What? Go by Linny.
Yeah, my name's the good one.
I have no idea what you said. So we're gonna do this thing again, which is dyeing the entire thing white. Okay, I'm gonna make the face red for now, just so we know what side we need to dye. We're putting the face on. How do I dye things? It hates me. Oh, I'm on the outer layer. Now we make one side. No, red. I said red, we're sticking with red. That's not red, that's... Give me white, please, and thank you. Because we're making... we have a picture we need to stay with. That's 2. Oh, we're going with gray. Why? Because I'm not fighting with it. And it's easier to see. It's way easier to see. Okay, then go. Okay, and then we just add them on. Okay, so now we know, since we know what side is forward. Shit. Since we know what side's forward, I think we're just gonna do this one. Oh, we're gonna do this one. The awake. Because I feel like it'd look funnier. Okay, we got the... We're gonna go like this and then... Womp. That is not one line. No! Not one line. And we're gonna color it in because we are the best. It looks much redder on my watching screen than my monitor. Like, holy moly. It's like a muted red on mine. It's like fire truck red on the other. It's great. We're gonna make the back of it wavy. I feel like I'd wear some of these, some of the more complicated ones to an actual, like, Minecraft event, like as a skin. Why? Because why not? We're gonna add some waves in there. And then, boink, boink, boink. Now me realizing I missed an entire spot. There we I think it looks good. We're just gonna go boop, because we know where the face is now, and then we're gonna go... What's this color again? We're gonna go... That's awesome. I love that. Boop! One more done. Shall it be perfect? So that one's done. Do we want to do 2 for that one? We'll come back to it to see if we have time to do the other one. Are we gonna do what I think is gonna be one of the better ones? Personally, I think it'll be one of the better ones. Peanut. Except I actually have no idea what a peanut looks like off the top of my head. Okay, this one's gonna take detail. Okay, this is the one I'm gonna use. So I think we're just gonna do one body part at a time. Minus the legs. We're gonna make the legs skinny and weird looking because that's what it looks like in the picture. What color is a peanut? This color? Yeah. How to make the brush size bigger? This? Nope. But hey. What am I gonna do? Get mad at a peanut? Nah, mate. I'm not petty enough to get mad at a peanut. I'm gonna post these on Twitter after, and if I actually see someone wearing them, I'm going to be surprised and generally curious on why society is still a thing. Which you got me off fide. If I had put it in the slim, we've already started, it's too far to go back, but if I put it in the slim, we could have had, like, that would have been a good idea. Because then I could have just made 1 pixel legs to match, like, the weird these legs. Because those are, like, human legs with big peanuts on them. And once again, I forgot how to... This... Okay, this is front. This is how we've been marking it, so this is how we're gonna keep marking it. When we need it, we will find it. That is not what I wanted. Oh, yeah. Ace. I think this is going surprisingly well. And maybe afterwards we'll put on one of the skins and we'll go, you know, play like a couple rounds of like TnT Run or something in them. Just because. Just because. And we just kind of Brrr. This is like that one game, like when DSIs were a big thing. It was called Heartland Harvest, like the sheep shearing thing. That's what this is like, except there's no time limit. You don't get anything, and For some reason, the pixels are less cooperative. And you're more like putting stuff on than off. This is one of the greatest things I've ever done. Surprisingly, one of the most well done streams I've had in a while. Well, that's a lie. Right before I hit, the first time I tried to hit start stream, my internet went out, which is always the best thing to happen when you're like, I'm gonna stream today. I was like, no, you're not. I just had an idea. So you know how usually some characters will have like sleeves? What if we make it like a peanut costume? Peanut color. Back. Get. Perfect. And now we just gotta give him human hands. Skin color. Like, yes, so it's the two no. I'll do 3 bottom pixels. I don't know how to do human detail skin, so we're not going to, but I will at least put something on the bottom of the hand so they're not like boldly nothing. Or we do and we just leave it all weird. I think we're just gonna leave it all weird. Why? Because why not? If it was good, we wouldn't be using Bursed images as reference. That's great. That's boop. I'm doing this instead of homework, so I hope you guys love it. What do the legs look? What do the legs look like again? Human legs. We're putting him. We are not doing straight human legs because the obvious. But I will fancy around putting him in a dress. Or putting him in a dress. Let me just go. Whoa! We're gonna make it a slit dress, at least, to honor the original photo. And just shit. I think I'm also gonna give him a leg girder. How would you like to be in the peanut dress? No! Give me one color! No, it's gonna, you know what? It's not worth just undoing it. It does 1 pixel at a time. There's many pixels. Just gotta fill it in and then get its skin color to do. I'll put the slit on the back of it. In improvising, because we're amazing, we just go. I put the face on wrong. Why is it so hard to draw a face today? This is beautiful though. I love him. It's a cursed peanut. So it doesn't need to be perfect. Except it does, but that's okay. Then we just kind of.
Do you know why the vast majority of self-published books don't sell more than a few copies? It's because the authors don't take the time to get the book professionally edited. And
I think
on Readsy, you can find the perfect editor, cover designer, and proofreader for your book without breaking the bank, and ensure that the book you put out into the world is indistinguishable from major bestsellers. Browse through hundreds of hand-picked editors, filtered by genre.
I think we're giving him an off-the-shoulder dress too. He needs to be fancy.
Reach out to ideal candidates. Sign up on Readsy today and publish a professional, beautiful book.
What category am I streaming under? I feel like I'm streaming under the wrong one. I am. Back to the basically what I'm using as a.
I know you love what you do. You're focused on perfecting pet portraits, or calming people with cozy sips, or styling the next trendsetter. That's why we created Shop Here, powered by Google, a program that provides free one-on-one support to build your online store, train you on how to maintain it, and even help with digital marketing. So apply now.
What I'm using as a
growing your business online.
Oh, I already forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I put it under the wrong category. I'm streaming Minecraft skins, but I'm putting it under the art category because that's what it is. It's art. I'm gonna use some of this color. One dress. Perfect. That's perfecto. So we have the peanut done. I don't really know if my internet's working because it says mine's working, but I'm using 2 devices, so my one just crashed, which could have literally anything. So if you give me a second, I'm gonna pull it back up, make sure everything's working, and you guys can see. It's like one of the most important things too. So we're gonna go back. Oh, wow. Oh my god! We're back! No, we aren't! It's crashing again. Oh, great. Well, I'm just gonna keep going and hope my thing doesn't crash. How? Then peanuts. What are we doing? We're doing this next because it's my favorite. Alright. I'm gonna download it one more time to make sure that I've resets. Okay. There we go. Next one we're doing is this. Thinking about it, I think that's someone's first Sona, so we're skipping that one. We're doing the drog. Because I don't want to accidentally steal someone's design for something. And right away we're doing the mouth and eye placements because okay, this is okay. We got the draw going. It kind of looks like a lizard. Okay. We need one body port, and then we go. Dogs have fur, so we're gonna do this. Then it's definitely not what the picture looks like, but oh well. Photo accuracy is not something I'm good at. Gonna put it on the shoulders. Then boop. Okay, we got that. Got that done. Now we are. What's his face look? Where did I? What? We're gonna figure out where his eyes are. We're gonna give him blue eyes, even though that's not what the picture says. I feel like it's gonna be a lot of brown, and I think it'll look nice. That in it? Yes. That's not. Boop. Then reset. Other side. And then years, so I don't forget them. And but that, besides the little spots, like of brown, the rest of him's just kind of gray. Gray-black. We're just gonna do his legs, and then his feet. What did I give him? What did I give him? Pause. You can probably tell how much I actually use a mouse to draw. Not often. Okay, I got worried the music cut out for a second. No, my headphones just turned off, so boop, we're going with no headphones. I can't hear anything. It's not going to be fun. I don't know where I put the charger for them because they're Bluetooth. Or they just decided to stop working, which could also be very, very, you know, it could really just be that. But what are you gonna do? Stop streaming? No. Why would I do that? Show me the top of your head, please. That is not the color I needed. I'm going to do this and go blue. And hope it looks like the picture. I think this is possibly one of my stupidest ideas I've had yet. But I'm having fun, and like, that's all that matters. And we're having fun. Let's go boop. Do you think if I dye it, it'll dye in the rainbow colors? Or rainbow colors? No, it doesn't. That's upsetting. Well, we're just gonna go like this. So. I'm using YouTube, and I'm scared it's secretly just gonna change into like okay, that looks not right. It's secretly gonna turn on an ad and I won't notice. And then I get bullied for it. Who knows? Who knows? I should probably start using Spotify for streams because I pay for it, but also that'd be easy. That'd be too easy. Why is there blue on them? We didn't even use blue. Did we? Yes, we did. I'm going crazy. That's fine. That's fine. These are inside limbs besides the head, so quite frankly, meh. Then go womp womp. No. Alright, there we go. This looks ridiculous. Just right now. We're at right now. Horrifying. I think the coloring is choosing the color based on the other color we have for like the spots. I don't think that's making it look the way we want it. But you know what? That's alright. It's a strange thing we're making. It's fine. That's how the body's at. It's empty. It's the back of the body. That explains it. Why? You know what? We're changing our minds. We're just gonna do this because we like wasting time here on this channel. I'm leaving the boots though because I'm good. Proud of him. It's mainly because I feel like it'd be easier and it'd look less weird. And no! The beautiful eye has been broken. No! Boop! Fixed it. That's definitely what a dog looks like. I know what a dog looks like. Gotta give it a tail. Gotta give it a tail. It looks like a chickmunk. I'm gonna be honest. Chickmunk? Chickmunk. Dog tail. Wait, do they have nubs? They have nubs. Aww. I'm really good at drawing. I'm good at doing tails. No, it's gotta be a nub. Gotta be photo accurate. Not really, but I will be. For the sanity of like one person I know. No. We are going to change the color of this though. His little eyes. First of all, blush. This looks terrifying. I know what I'm doing. No, I do not. I definitely do know what I'm doing. Does anyone else just get random songs stuck in their head but not know any bit of the song? Just like one small part in your brain's like, yes, that, give. It sucks. The brain thing, not the skin. The skin's looking great. I love it. We're just gonna scribble it until it looks like a dog. I've never actually seen a boxer, or is that a boxer? Yes. Dogs have like little back spots. Like little neck color. We're also gonna give him dog boots, dog booties for his hands. Wah. Oh, wah, wah. And then up, around. Dog booties. Kind of looks like a poisonous toad, but like that's also the point. So I don't know what to say if that's a good thing or not, but I think it's looking good. Oh, this is great. I think we're just gonna go. Fix the tail for a second. No matter what, it's gonna look a little bit like a bear, so why not? I feel like this is just gonna throw people off. Yeah?
Which boy we have to leave soon? It's 10 to 5. Which boy? Let's go.
1 second. I've returned. We keep forgetting when we're supposed to go somewhere, so we're doing great. We've only forgotten the entire time now. And we're gonna try not to mess up the little boots we got going on the bottom, because those are my favorite. Probably the only good thing we did. That and the corn dress. Not the corn dress. I thought it was 2 pixels to the bottom. It's 3 apparently. People are gonna get the feeling that this is a dog and then go, it's a freak of nature, and it's going to be marvelous. Yeah, those are the only good things we've done. We have this. Oh, that's great. It goes with the vibe of the Bursed. Frog. I have a great idea. Dog. It says dog now. I'll put that in like a more hidden way. For people who read between the lines. Dog. Dog. Drop. Okay, so I think we're gonna use this one. So the plan is now, since we've gone through all of our Bursed images, originally I was just gonna do this one, but I was like, oh, you know what? People are just gonna be like, it's that half and half guy from one anime. What's his name? Todoroki. People will be like, that's half and half. That's Todoroki, and I'm gonna be like, that's anxiety. Well, anyways, I'm going to switch over to my That is not what I want. It's not that either. Not, nope. According, no. Minecraft. There we go. Flipping through all of the stream elements. I need to clearly label them. And then I'm gonna set up it so I can see. I'm also gonna do this. We're gonna go boop, making good Minecraft skins to we're calling it vlog, right? Drog. And we'll put it back in the Minecraft category. So I'm also changing the stream information, the stream info, and then we gotta go. Boop. My entire goal right now is to make people okay, it looks worse in game. Oh, it's marvelous. We could use Mushroom, we could use any of the skins I've made before that are actually decent. No. Drog. Because I want to. Because I'm a lunatic. And because why not? Did I actually end up changing the stream info? I did change the stream info. I'm just crazy. I'm gonna hope that this actually works today, because it never works when I try and load in Minecraft right after I change my skin. And it's annoying. And when I'm just saying Minecraft, I mean OBS, because OBS loves me. Let me alt tab, please. Whack! Lars. Minecraft. Open. No, I don't want... We're gonna load in a Hypixel and see if I can get it to work then. Okay, it is working now. Wow. That took way too much. Way too much to do. What the? Oh. It's glitching. It's only glitching on my end for some reason. I have to turn off my resource pack. Not my resource pack, my shaders. Because it is going to kill me on... Or at least kill my lovely computer on Hypixel. Online. Huh, that's new. Back to game. Where to go? I hope I'm on our skyblock. Okay, we are. We're gonna go on the skyblock to see how to see how we look. Oh, this is marvelous. I actually kind of like it from behind, and the bottom part on the front isn't bad. It's the sides. It's the sides that makes it horrible. And I exited Hypixel. No, staying on Hypixel. Try and exit 5th person. We are playing. Am I already in the TnT Run lobby? I am. It literally tells you the variations of games I play. I play TnT Run and TnT Run. That's it. It's because I'm talented and the only thing I can do is run from my problems. And I'm gonna be honest, I still don't... Like, there's so many people here with good skins. This guy's good. Like, that one's good. That's Among Us. And now we run away. I'm like, everyone has good skins, and then there's me. looking like this.
Oh, this is great. Whoop, whoop. Oh shit. There's a reason I've never won TnT Run. It's because I'm stupid. Oh, there's the end of the world. Ah. I'm talented. 7th place. Oh, I'm gonna fall at the end again. The end of the world. The end of the world. I should shut up. I'm not going to. It's okay, I'll restart the game. TnT Run, the only thing I actually am good at. To an extent. Okay, there's a dream skin. Oh, the game's started already. Wait, we found a dream? And a sapnap. How much you want to bet there's more? There's more of them in this game. Like, nothing against them, but just... Jesus. They're in everyone. Like, they always end up killing me. I don't want to deal with being killed. Oh, there's Dubbo. Or at Dubbo. I want to Carl Jacobs. Is everyone playing as Dream SMP skins now? Is that why I don't get people watching? Jeez. I mean, I wouldn't want people to take my skin. I'd suck, be skinless. That didn't make sense, but when do I need to make sense? Whee! What if I just keep dying? It eventually, eventually it makes you land on a block. No, I just moved forward. I just moved forward. How? Back to lobby. Not lobby, I want a new game. I want to play again. Let me play. Oh, I am. Oh, that's fucking awesome. Wait, come back here. I want to see your skin. Oh, that's nice. Ah. I'd make cool skins if I wasn't crazy. See, there's another one in this. Okay, there's Dream and Sap, the Dream and Sapnap skins again. You know what? I'm actually surprised for once. I'm pretty sure they're the same ones we played against last time. That's alright. I'd rather be beat by someone in a dream skin than someone who just doesn't use Steve. The default skins. One second. I'm gonna check something really quick because I think I'm streaming in the wrong category. And that's embarrassing. Okay, I'm not. I'm just going crazy. I am going to switch back to my other skin just because I will skip.
shit out of myself playing that one. But we're also gonna go on to the hardcore world we've been working on. Even though it's been like 10 minutes playing TnT Run. I don't know how to English. Okay, there we go. Typing is hard when you aren't paying attention. I'm just making, okay, I've just made sure music's still going. Wow. I'm a little bit scared because it's the first time something's gone so well for so long. So it's like, I wonder when it's just gonna hit the wall. Usually it does right about now. That's my brother. Wow. The big thing is. The big thing. Now we're mining the hole because I don't know what to do. I need to make more ladders up. You know what, we're gonna do a tour. I haven't been on this one for a while, so. By a while, I mean since last time I was on it, which was, shit, like a month ago. Okay, so, let's start from over here. This is the entrance. This is not spawn, I don't remember where that is. Then we have the hole, or the pit. We're digging to bedrock in 1.18.2? Whatever one this is. The disc. And more discs. Where are they? There's gonna be more of them at least. It's, oh god. It's gonna be like little places for stuff. This is the clock because it has a timer on it. The farm, there's a mine over there. Tree. There's that. I didn't put that there, I don't know who did. Then all the way over here, got stairs up to the tree house, which is also discs because why would we use squares in Minecraft? Crafting bench, some more stairs. There's a sign there apparently, and bed where we can look off in the distance into the wonderful world. Let's go over there. It's at night. We'll sleep and then we'll go over there. We're gonna go adventuring for a little bit. And then we're gonna go adventuring. And then we'll come back. Oh no, we're gonna eat first. Okay. Food. Whoa. I do have to let y'all go soon. Just because I have to be about half hour, 45 minutes away for 6:30 my time, which is one of the time zones. So go up above water. I just want to see what's over here.
Oh, that looks so cool. Shit. Oh, wait, that's cool. Oh, I haven't seen that before in lava. There are diamonds down there? No, there's only copper. And coal and iron. I'm not gonna go down there because it's dangerous and I'm bad at the game, but that looks cool. Maybe we'll go down there one day. I wonder if there's anything else that's cool over here. Probably a lot of stuff. The scenery is beautiful now. Oh, hello cow. Hello other cow. What other fun? The fuck was that? What was that? That was my internet glitching. That's what that was. What the hell? We're just gonna walk right now. Don't glitch and then fall in a hole. There's nothing happening. Flower! Another flower. I wanna bring some. Have I never picked up poppies before? Guess not. Or bring them back to our camp, so. I just gotta remember which way I go, or make sure I don't get too lost. Ooh. The first actual oakwood forest I've seen on this world. Wow, this is really nice. You know what that reminds me of? Remember on Legacy Edition consoles Minecraft? Like way back in like 2014, 2015, when the world just abruptly ended. Just water, then like 10 blocks and end of the world. Just straight cut off of land. Oh, those were the days. Back when the handbooks came out. That's, jeez, such a long. That's nine or so years ago now. You feel old yet? I do. I'm technically still a minor, so. L. You're old. Don't worry. Sometimes being old is poggers. You can be old and poggers. You can grow a beard. You can't bride. Yeah. You can grow a beard. You know, you can. Women. You can men. I'm not judging. Do you?
We need to start paying attention to what we're doing before I accidentally fall to my death. I'm not dying again to fall damage. Because that shit hurts.
Could die from something really cool, like a dragon, but no, it's gonna be fall damage. Or like pillagers, because those things suck. I have a grass block. Okay. I want to bring grass up to the thing. It's gonna be ugly, but it's gonna be a bit. Or we can just like. We just gotta hope no mobs come and karate chop us in the oblivion. I gotta plant some flowers, makes it look so nice. So it's, yeah, that's, and then we just gotta wait for that to grow back and gotta grab our food.
And then we're gonna thread here. And what time is it? Oh god, I have to. 1 second. Let me close that. I'll go like this. So, okay, good. So I'm just gonna go like this. No one I know is online. Oh, that's never fun. No one I've ever heard of is online. Jeez. Just kidding, there's plenty of people online. We're gonna find you someone that looks fun. This looks fun. No. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna. I have to go soon. I'm going to be honest. Does anyone have a person they want me to raid in chat? Like in chat, anyone want like a specific person raided? Or... Cause if not, we're just gonna pick a random person and hope they're not an ass. Which I doubt they will be. I've been surprisingly lucky that way with random people. But like, there's so many nice Twitch streamers now. I know it's just gonna be mean. I think I found someone. So we're ready to do this. Thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate everyone who did come, and everyone who, anyone at all, just people. And I'm gonna hand you over to Invictus chat because I like their username. Anyways, you can join the raid. Is the raid going? Did I hit the button? Ready to raid. Alright. Well, anyways, thank you so much, and I hope you all have a good day, night, evening, whatever. Bye bye!